Welcome to the Chromosome 18 virtual conference. We're going to get started in just like 2 minutes. We're going to wait for people to get on before we actually get started. So hang tight for just another minute or two. Okay, we're waiting just another minute for everybody to be able to log on and get started. So if you just give us a minute, we'll start shortly. Welcome to Closer Than Ever, the Chromosome 18 the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society virtual conference. I'm Jannine Cody, president of the organization, and welcome. I'm hoping that we can keep in mind that this is, of course, in a way, a very sad day but at the same time, it's an opportunity. So we're pretty much used to social distancing, aren't we? As parents of kids with ultra rare diseases or conditions, I shouldn't ever call them diseases. We're very distant and we don't get to see each other very often. So social distancing in that way is not something that's new to us. And this was our one time a year when we don't have to practice social distancing, and yet here we are. But in every challenge, there's opportunity. And so this is an opportunity to try some new things, see how they work, see what you think. And hopefully this will help us reach people who aren't able to come to the conference because they live too far away, they can't afford it, or they have kids that can't travel. There's lots of reasons people just can't get to the conference. So we're hoping that doing this Zoom conference and doing the conference virtually will help us reach even more people. And the reason, of course, it's at this hour in 3 o'clock Central Time in the US is we're hoping some of the Europeans are still awake and the Australians are just waking up. So we're hoping we can reach people around the world and who might not be able to be with us in person, and at least they can be with us virtually. So we have a great lineup scheduled for this week, and we'll go through that. And thank you again for being here. Oh good, try to advance my slides. There we go. First, a reminder, please put your questions in the chat box anytime throughout the presentation. If it's a question that really is a one-on-one sort of answer, we'll get back to you. If it's a question that's something that the whole group might want to hear the answer to for myself or for Neale, then at the end, Amy Behan, our Director of Operations, will read those questions and we'll have a short Q&A at the end of this session. And also we'll have a question and answer session with myself and Dr. Hale at the end of our virtual conference. So if they're more medical or scientific kind of questions, we'll address those at that time. And so you can send those to the office at Chromosome 18 anytime this week and we'll collect those questions. And sometimes some of the questions, as you know, I'm pretty visual, and so all my slides have lots of images and diagrams. And so if I have your questions ahead of time and if it requires a picture, then that way I have some time to organize it. And so it'll be a better way to answer your questions. I often feel at the conference when it's live, someone asks me a question and I think, just think, if I just had this certain slide, I could point to exactly what I'm talking about. So this will give me that opportunity. So it might be a better Q&A session. And of course, this is why we're all here, because we're all asking this question: why not? Why aren't all these conditions completely treatable? And why are our kids not always able to experience a full and productive life? And why not? Well, we do have a great network of families who are going to make the first two happen and make sure they happen. And of course, we've been working on that for 30 years. I have my t-shirt on, 30-year t-shirt here. Just came the other day. So I hope everybody bought one. I really like it. I love all the colors. A balloon for each of the syndrome colors. And we had big plans to celebrate in April, on April 6th, but we were in lockdown, quarantine, social distancing, and totally not able to have a celebration in person. So that was the first in-person thing that had to go virtual. So we've been working on this a long time, and we've made an amazing amount of progress. We have such a fabulous group of families, so committed to making life better for their kids, for all their children, the affected children and siblings as well. And for this particular conference, it's really not quite as much work as an in-person conference, but it still takes a lot of effort to organize everything. So we have a lot of people we need to thank, a lot of volunteers who have worked to put this conference together, in addition to the staff. So Kathy Borello, I identified some speakers and worked on the merchandise. Racine is organizing the self-advocate panel later this week, and Kendall Powell is organizing the sibling panel. Those will both be live events. Tam and Dave Aldrup were supposed to be the chairs for this year's conference. So that's been moved to next year. So they really have double duty. So they've been very active and supportive and helpful in organizing our virtual conference as well. And of course, I have harassed a number of speakers to give, and actually, most of them are quite happy to do it. But I'd like to point out the medical and scientific speakers that I asked to speak this year. I told them, because this is a virtual conference, we may be reaching many families who have never been to our conference before. So you might want to make your talk more broad and general for those who haven't been to a conference. So the type of presentation may be a little bit different than just strictly the latest update kind of information. So I'm hoping it'll be useful to a broader range of people. And of course, we have an amazing staff, which we'll recognize in a minute, in the registry office and the research center, and many volunteers who help make all this go so smoothly. And in the office, of course, Amy Behan is our director of operations. She's making all these, well, she makes all these things work. Even in spite of me, she makes all these things work. Neale Parker, who will be on in just a minute, is our executive director. I think everyone knows Neale. Victoria Ochoa is our account supervisor now for a couple of years. She's one of the people in the background so you may not have met her in person, but she's essential. And our newest staff member, thanks to getting her started with a grant from the Gordon Hartman Foundation, as in Morgan's Wonderland, is Michelle Dvorak, and she's the program service coordinator. And so this is a position we have really needed for a long time. So we're really excited to have Michelle on board, and she's doing a great job. And hopefully everyone has interacted with her, because she's organized a lot of Zoom calls. Neale will talk a little more about that. And we also have a large group of work study staff or interns from Alamo colleges, University of Texas, San Antonio. Several of the local colleges and universities have work study programs where people can work at a local nonprofit. So it really takes a lot of work and a lot of man hours to make this organization run. And so we not only want to recognize all these people who have dedicated a lot of time to this, but we also want you to know how much effort goes into making this all work. So thank you to all of these people. And then we have our members, families who volunteer to do essentially staff level kind of positions. And they've all been working multiple years at these volunteer jobs, and none of this would happen without them. Jeff Borello, Director of Technology. Stacy Gallardo is Director of Social Media. Jean Johnson is Director of Data. Christy Holder, Director of Marketing, and Elizabeth Cody is Administrative Assistant, sort of other duties as assigned when lots of little jobs that come up in the office because she's right there. So thank you so much to all these people who continue to provide such great support for the organization. And we also have open staff positions. We're always in need of people, specifically a director of individual development and a director of corporate development, but we're always interested in people who have skills in the development fundraising area to help the organization, especially this year, as you'll see. We also need help with the golf tournament in San Antonio 2021 and 2021 annual conference. We'll need volunteers for that. And our Starfish Dash in 2021. Notice all these are next year. All these things have been postponed from 2020. So we're ready to hit the ground running next year in 2021 to make each of these events even better than they were going to be this year. And the board of directors includes the officers of the organization. In this picture, front row left is Liz Woodfield, who's vice president for development, and myself in the middle, and on the right in the front, Katie Shilley, I'm sorry, that should say Katie Bailey, vice president for member relations. Sorry, I didn't catch that in the edits, Katie. In the back row is John Dramala, our treasurer, and Dave Aldrip, the secretary. But if you recall, last year we talked about this at the annual conference. We were restructuring the board a little bit, and we made all the coordinators their own committee, and we added directors at large. So the board of directors has 2 new directors at large, Tom Kunkel and Carol Connor Cohen. So thank you both and welcome to the board. They've been very active and offered a lot already. We don't have a cap on the number of directors at large that we can have on the board. So if you have very specific skill sets that would be helpful to the organization, we would love to hear from you. And we could always use more help with development, also leadership of any of the organizational committees. We always need accounting sort of expertise, legal expertise, and any other sort of unique talent that you have that is important at the board and management level of the organization. So we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to myself or Neale anytime. We also have, as I said, all our coordinators and who are now a committee of their own. And so there are syndrome coordinators. Nicole McVicker is the 18Q- coordinator. Christy Kane is the tetrasomy 18P coordinator. Right now, we do not have a ring 18 coordinator. Catherine Newman is the 18P- coordinator, and Jude Wolpert for trisomy 18. In addition, we have a coordinator for the siblings, which is Kendall Powell, and the self-advocates, which is Racine Giz, and a bereavement coordinator, Camille Hammond. And in addition, we have regional coordinators, and we recognize these are very big regions, but in a membership of ours with an ultra rare conditions, so far this is work to sort of organize events regionally, although they're not really strict in that if there's a regional event and you live close to the location, and even though it's a region next door, you're welcome to go. They're not really private sort of groups. It's just help us organize families regionally a little bit. And so our regional coordinators, again, all volunteers. The Northwest coordinator is Joy Wilson, Southwest, Jessica Robold. Rocky Mountains are Shauna Keller. The Texas area coordinator is Holly Hubble. The South Central region is open, so if you live in that region and would like to help us organize events, whoops, how did I advance that? I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. Got to pay attention. In the South Central region, that region's open. Great Plains coordinators, Carrie Conley. Southeast, Allison and Jeremy Lindman. The Mid-Atlantic is Mike Fadula, and Northeast, Jason Goodman, and Great Lakes is open. And the map I just showed is on the website. So if you want to know what region you're in, just go and look at the website there. In addition, we have international coordinators. So the liaison for the European group is Bonnie McCarrican. For the Australian group is Tracy Healy, and for the Canadian group it is, oops, keep doing that, gotta stop. Okay, is Shelley Hunt. So thank you to all these people who spend so much time and are so dedicated to helping our families be together. We also have several international ambassadors. Christina Matina, I meant to ask Neale how you pronounce it, Mutina. She was actually at the conference a year or so ago, and we got to meet her in person. And she's the African ambassador, so families in Africa have somebody sort of local they can reach out to. And we have a few others around the world as well. So thank you to those people. And if you are interested in being an international ambassador, please reach out to us. So again, just to remind us, why not? Why aren't these completely treatable? Because no one's done it so far. That's all. It's not magic. It's not fate. It's not, you know, the way it is. It's just not been figured out yet. And so that's why we're here, to say, why not? Let's make these treatable. And why do our kids need special needs trust? Well, that's our question. Why not? So we want to be able to have them experience a full life that is under their own direction. I know that's a huge, huge goal, but we won't ever get there if we don't try. And so that's why we're here. We have a big vision for the future, and we're all willing to work hard to get there. And we have this great network of families who are willing to work so hard to make this a reality. In addition, of course, one of the aspects that goes into making all those things a reality is the Chromosome 18 Clinical Research Center, which is entirely legally and functionally separate from the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society. It is a center within the University of Texas Health at San Antonio. We're in the Department of Pediatrics in the School of Medicine. And the research center has generated over 60 publications so far. We just had a publication come out yesterday in Trends in Genetics. Hadn't even told Neale this yet. And that is probably the second most important review journal in the world of genetics. And whoops, what was the title? Gotta read the title. It's called The Consequences of Abnormal Gene Dosage, Lessons from Chromosome 18. So abnormal gene dosage is, the normal dose of genes is 2. Abnormal would be 3 copies tetrasomy, 3 copies trisomy, 4 copies tetrasomy, or 1 copy P minus, Q minus, or ring. So abnormal, that's what abnormal gene dosage is. And so we're trying to get the world to wake up to this and to take what we've learned, all these things we've learned about chromosome 18, a chromosome other people don't think is very important, and say, look at this, we've paved the way for all the chromosomes, for the people with 10 Q minus and 1 P minus and every other chromosome abnormality. We've paved the way. This is how it can be done. And so I'm really excited about this paper. I hope, because it's in a high-level review journal, that people will read it and take notice. And more importantly, maybe we'll have some people who want to collaborate, who have skills we don't have, and help us move this along faster. So anyway, in addition, the Research Center has published from the information from all those 60+ papers, management guides, physician management guides, which are on the website for the Research Center. And there are a whole list of over 20 projects going on, for some looking at aspects of each of one of the conditions, some working on how to understand the gene function of some key genes. And importantly, almost all the funding for the Research Center comes from you, from the fundraising of the Chromosome 18 registry. And just the baseline level to keep the staff employed and to enroll additional people and to do surveys and collect medical records. We get a lot of information that way, but there's so much more we could do, but we can't. The funding of $300,000 a year is just the baseline to sort of keep it alive, and not to do lots of other exciting experiments that would really move the work forward in big and exciting ways. So that's the Research Center. And the most important reminder, if we don't do it, it won't get done. There is no other Chromosome 18 Clinical Research Center. There are no other groups working on these conditions. There are other groups working on specific genes, and whenever we find a key gene that's really important, when you have 1 copy or 3 or 4 copies, we collaborate with those people, but none of them are putting it together in a way that would make a difference for families. And that's really what sets us apart, is taking any new information and making sure it is applicable in a way that's important and will make a difference to families. That's an aspect of research that it just goes past 99.99% of researchers. So if we don't do it, it won't get done. It's up to us. And with this quote from one of our wonderful active members, I'm going to turn over the presentation to our Executive Director, Neale Parker.
Hey, Jannine, thank you very much indeed for that a great start to the virtual conference. We're so glad everybody could join us today. So thank you for the explanation, and we will be available for questions and answers afterwards. So I'm going to go through some of the logistics of what we've been doing here at Chromosome 18, and just whilst I wait for the screen to change over, is that can you see that presentation?
Yes, Neale, we can see you.
Okay, thank you. Is that we had a wonderful year in 2019. We had 195 new families that joined the registry, which we were very, very kind of pleased to see that number. Almost 30% of those people came from our international membership. So it was actually down, our international membership was actually about 50% in 2018, so that dropped a little bit. But overall is that, you know, we are welcoming many, many new families every year, and most of those families are just starting off on their journey. So as we develop our information for our different members at different parts of their journey, we are looking kind of like helping those new families when they join us. And one of those, some of the things that automatically happen now is that every new family gets kind of 3 sets of information, which will kind of hopefully move them along on the first part of their journey. Overall, this is kind of where we were for income and expenses for 2019. You can kind of see a little bit about where a lot of the money that we raise for and the expenses goes to, as Jannine said, is that, you know, we make a minimum commitment of $300,000 every year. That's the kind of the bare minimum that's needed to kind of keep the Clinical Research Center moving forward. But on the income side of things, you can see kind of a wide variety of where different incomes kind of coming in. And again, most of that is through regional fundraisers. We have developed our grants portals a lot to reach out to many more foundations. So is that as we move through, we're developing kind of where we're getting financial support from, but of course it's mostly from the families, from you guys that are helping make everything happen. So this year, as Jannine said, no surprise, we have been experiencing some downturn with everything being cancelled. We actually just heard a couple of days ago, unfortunately, that Fiesta in San Antonio is cancelled, which we always have our Starfish Dash 5K run and healthcare, which was originally for April, got put back to November, but now it's going to become a virtual event. So that's one of the good things that we will be able to we will be able to do on the 14th of November. So kind of see some details for that. This budget that's actually posted here, the 575,536, is actually a revised budget that the board of directors voted on just once we knew that we would be affected by COVID, but that's kind of the bare minimum that we want to make sure that we achieve as we move through the year. So we started off and we're at about 48%. So that's kind of a great way. And if we can finish the year strong, we should be in a good place. This kind of graph kind of gives you an overview of where we are. You can see that in 2016, we steadily kind of built up our revenue into 2019, and things were looking great. And of course, everything changed. So we have pivoted as much as we can as we move through the year, but we continue to look at different areas that we need to kind of try and kind of grow. And many of that is how many extra resources that we need to give to our members. And we'll talk about that in a little while. I think for the people that have attended this a few times is that some of these statistics are not surprising. With the downturn during 2016, we used a lot of the reserves that we had in the organization. But the kind of the plus side is that we are looking at building those back up again as we continue to move through this year and next year. We potentially have a opportunity for a couple of larger grants that we've never had before. So we're trying to maximize that as much as possible. I suppose the one big thing is that for the Clinical Research Center, you know, we want to make sure that the research is continuing at the minimum level. And as Jannine said, is that it's very important that we can continue to fund that on a regular basis. Some of the great things that happened in 2019, let's kind of hit some of the highlights. You can see that we went up from 131 events in 2018 to 193 events. So that's an increase of about 35%, just doing the numbers in my head. So I think that's just really, you know, a testament to how much everybody's kind of getting involved and just really kind of trying to do anything. And whatever size the event is that, you know, every dollar helps to kind of, you know, move the needle in the right direction. So you can see there a breakdown of, you you know, almost 70% of those members that have done individual events. You know, the office have organized about 20%, and then we have other kind of partner events as well. So I think that's something to be really proud of, that increase from that slide. Some of the fundraising events that are going on, of course, the Power of 18 is going on right now. It's an initiative that we kind of try to make a very small amount of money, donated $18, to have a really big impact. So I'm very proud to announce that as of a few minutes before we got on this call, we're nearly up to $51,000. So if you haven't been part of the Power of 18, I strongly suggest that you kind of jump on the website and have a look at that. It's super easy to do. I don't know if you know, but if you wanted to sell something on eBay, if you've got something hanging around in the garage or what have you that you want to get rid of, you can sell it on eBay and then donate the money, all of the money or a portion of the money to us at the registry. Of course, everybody's familiar with Amazon. I'm still surprised at the number of people that haven't heard about smile.amazon. And every purchase that you make on Amazon, a very small percentage comes to us. But every little bit helps. And we all love shopping on Amazon. We have the Starfish Dash, which I mentioned earlier on, that was going to be going to a virtual event. So you'll be seeing more details about that. And we have literally dozens and dozens each month of people that do Facebook fundraisers, whether that's a birthday fundraiser or whether it's just a fundraiser that they want to do. So thank you everybody for continuing to support us that way. I mentioned earlier on about the increasing resources that we've been kind of trying to give you through this kind of tough time. We've developed out specific COVID-19 resources, which include programs to help at your house. We've tried to give different resources with regards to portals that you can go to. And of course is that, we're always available for questions, and we will be sharing with you the contact details of Annis Hill at the end, at the Clinical Research Center if you have more specific questions on the health side of things. Katie Bailey and Michelle from the office have been doing an amazing job with the Zoom calls, both the regional and the syndrome Zoom calls. So that's really beginning to bring people together. And so we will be continuing that for a long time. We have also developed regional Facebook pages for every region. Is that if you are part of a region and you're interested in kind of developing that, is that the regional coordinator, might have 5 or 6 states, so they're always very, very willing for you to kind of help out with that. So lots of kind of great new resources kind of coming out of the registry, apart from everything that's coming out of the research center as well. We've tried to make it a lot more intuitive for you with regards to putting everything in one place. Is that beforehand is that you had to jump to 2 or 3 different places in our website. Huge thanks to Amy and our IT intern Raphael to kind of pull all this together. And so now what you can do is you can go onto one page and you can find all of those resources in one place. And of course, that's all at chromosome18.org. So we continue to develop out our social media resources. A lot of the resources, you're probably mostly familiar with our Facebook. We have 2 main pages. We have a open page, which is available to everybody. And then we have the main closed Facebook page, which is primarily designed for parents to interact with each other. And there's much more kind of medical and kind of support questions normally in that portal. But each one of those, you're going to see hopefully a lot of valuable information that are coming through that will be something that you're interested in following. A couple of kind of quotes that we always like to put in. Just really, we remember kind of what a struggle it can be every day, and bringing families together for that support is just so important. So whilst we can't be here in person, we're really looking to try and make sure that we bring as much you virtually as possible. Some of the highlights from last year, we had, as you can see, we had a very busy year. We had Starfish Dash, which I've already talked about. We were really proud to reinvigorate our golf tournament, which we had a hiatus for a few years, that took place in October in San Antonio. Huge shout out to Jim and Claudia Tra to kind of get involved with that. So it was quite unbelievable weather. We had the day before the tournament was, I think it was like 95 degrees, and the day of the tournament was just a little above 40. So we had a little bit of a kind of change in weather, but it was a really fun day. Everybody got out, and we're looking forward to that in September, but it's going to be postponed until 2021. I'd like to give a quick kind of shout out for the Botello Charity Golf Tournament. They have been doing a golf tournament for Chromosome 18 for actually 19 years. This year was going to be their 20th. But I actually just heard today that they might be doing a fishing competition instead. But anyway, is that kind of huge shout out to Stephen Botello and Botello Lumber for their commitment over all that many years. Birdies for Charity is also done by Valero Foundation, which is now called Champions for Charity. But we got a significant kind of grant from those guys, and Valero has been an amazing corporate sponsor for many, many years. And John Drymella, our board on the board of directors, is a representative from Valero. Thanks to the regional events, the Starfish Scrambles, normally these take place at Topgolf. It's a lot of fun. I've been to many of them myself, so hopefully a lot of you have been along and enjoyed those as well. It's a great way to kind of get everybody together, and it's kind of a fun afternoon, and the kids love it, and we kind of get together, have something to eat, and we raise some money. So so thank you very much indeed for everybody. Talking a little bit about the Power of 18, is that I spoke a little bit about that earlier on, is that the concept of the Power 18 came up from Liz Woodfield. Huge shout out to you, Liz. Is that Liz kind of suggested that if we could get $18 and you get 18 people to donate the $18, and they would get 18 people in each state, we could raise almost $300,000. So we've been building that. It's been running for almost a month and a half now. But as I said, we're up to $51,000, and we're going to be extending that all the way through to the end of July. So is that you still got time? Get on there. It's this is actually represents a little video. I think it's like 90 seconds that will give you the whole concept very quickly. What have we got going on for the rest of the year? Well, is that we always have in just the last quarter of the year, we always have our Phantom Tea and Wine, which is something that you will be getting through the mail. And we kind of, it's a way of being able to reach out to families. Normally we have a phantom wine party every year. I don't know if we'll be doing that in person, but was a great way of bringing people together, but we'll be reaching out with that with more details. And I mentioned Starfish Dash already. Is that we're going to make it really fun though, and there's going to be opportunities to share pictures and kind of make it a little bit more competitive. You can get a t-shirt, and it's going to be a fun thing you can do anywhere, actually anywhere around the world. So all those details will be sharing with you pretty soon. A great quote from Jannine, every child deserves a chance to succeed. That's really kind of our passion and our mission of what we want to make sure that everybody is in the best position possible. I want to give a shout out to Jannine. Her and her team work diligently kind of every day to move the needle a little bit closer to where we need to get it to. And whilst we don't kind of like post about it every day, is that people should remember that the research it's kind of a little by little, and as much as we kind of try and push that forward, we're always grateful for them for everything that they're doing on a daily basis. So huge shout out to the whole research team. What does this mean for you? Is that we have so many wonderful volunteers, but of course with a not-for-profit, we always would love to have some more. Of course, fundraising is, it's something that some people are not as comfortable with, but fundraising can take so many different ways that is not necessarily invasive, or you have to get in anybody's face. It can be fun. So lots of different things is that we have virtual interns now. So, perhaps somebody is at high school that wants to have some sort of internship availability, we can do that remotely now. Some people might have experience writing grants. Is that, if you have some experience, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of time, it can just be a few hours here and there across the week, and we give you, we can work with whatever you have, whatever time you have available. Jannine already mentioned about the board, and then of course, being a spokesperson in your community is a huge deal. Getting the message out about Chromosome 18. Very quick story is that a young student down in California made a presentation to just a room full of people about Chromosome 18 and her experience with it. And somebody in that room was actually part of a very large foundation. And out of the blue, we got a $30,000 check. It doesn't happen very often, but we were thrilled when we kind of found out the backstory. And we actually, unfortunately, never found out who that $30,000 donor was, but we want to thank you if you're listening today. Involve your community, become a spokesperson. Just let the community know about Chromosome 18. We've just started a legacy society for anybody that's made provisions in their kind of will or life insurance or what have you. We kind of want to recognize everybody that's done that. We haven't really kind of gone out and launched that yet, but we will be. And I kind of mentioned a little bit about the Facebook fundraisers. Monthly donations really help us plan as well. So, so definitely kind of different ways of being able to help there. Something new that we're doing, it's actually going to be happening on Thursday at 11:30, where we are going to be doing a virtual tour. So you can actually get to see some of the magic that goes on over at the Clinical Research Center, get to meet some of the people that have been there and doing the great work that they're doing. Please Please bear with us as we kind of, it's kind of like a learning process, but we're really enjoying kind of being able to showcase. And normally we used to do this in person, but of course now we're going to be doing it virtually. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the Clinical Research Center, come and join Jannine and meet the team. And I think you'll get a much better idea of why, you know, if you're not part of the research, why it's important to join. We talked a little bit about some of the initiatives that are going on. Big shout out to all of our interns, our work experience program. We could not do so much of the work without their help. So thank you very much. I know we've got a couple of them actually on this call today, so helping out. So thank you very much indeed. As I said earlier on, we're developing our foundation and corporate grants. I think so far this year, we've almost applied for 45 or 50 kind of foundation grants. So we're really kind of trying to build that up. And we're developing relationships with a lot of those people. Of course, our Facebook Live happens every month on the 18th of every month at 1800 Central Standard Time. And it normally goes for 18 minutes, but it can go a little bit shorter or longer or whatever. So, so just kind of depends who's presenting, but we plan for about 18 minutes. Another great quote that wanted to share with you guys is that we really, you know, we just so value all of our families and you know, the community that it brings to you all. So is that we, you know, we hope that we remind everybody that, you know, it's all about the families, and that's everything kind of comes back to that at the end of the day. Saying that is that if we continue doing everything, if we could get all of our 2,000 families, and just think of that 2,000 number is when, you know, Jannine started the foundation back in April of 1990. I believe she knew about 4 or 5 different families in the world. So we're now up to 2,000 families. If each, with 2,000 families in the US and Canada, and we're actually up to more families around the world, is that as we, you know, as we kind of go forward, is that if everybody could just do a little bit of fundraising, it kind of, it would make everything kind of go away. So just something that we just kind of trying to put in perspective. Dave and Tam Alderup are both very engaged with the organization. We thank them for everything they've done. And this is a wonderful thing that Dave shared with us. I think by their continued involvement shows kind of how important it is moving forward as well. So thanks to those guys. Contact information is that ANIS is the main kind of portal if you have something health related to go to at the research center. You're welcome to reach out to me directly at the registry. We're always working, very closely together. And of course, Jannine heads up both organizations, so that we have a very symbiotic relationship. But you really, for the health side of things, you have to make sure that you reach out to to ANIS, and then for everything else, please reach out to me. And if I'm not the right person, I'll be happy to direct you to the correct person. This quote is really very prominent for this year. we're all learning every day about new different things. How long we're going to be dealing with different, COVID situations or whatever it is. But it's about, let's make the best of it whilst we go through. I'm always a half cup full guy, and we're looking at really positive things happening throughout the rest of this year and into next year. Just as I finish off and before we go into questions and answers, I just want to give a quick shout out to our significant others of some of the staff members. Is that with Victoria, with Anthony, and Amy, with Sean, and of course my lovely wife Cynthia, who kind of get dragged along, willingly dragged along, I would say, to many, many different things. And I'd like to kind of give them a recognition of all of the help and support that they give each one of us as we kind of move through our journey with Chromosome 18. So I'm going to stop sharing the presentation. I'm going to ask if Jannine would like to rejoin me, and we can go into perhaps some questions and answers.
Thank you, Jannine and Neale. This is Amy Behan. I'm the Director of Operations, as both Jannine and Neale mentioned a little bit earlier. We had just a few questions that I think could be helpful for the whole group. The first one I can answer. We had a question if this would be recorded, and all of these sessions will be available on our website after the session has finished. So it might be that night, it might be the next morning, but they will be available.